This week's episode of the Wildcard Podcast is brought to you by this public service announcement. This public service announcement on how to spot the early warning signs that you might be a dick. If you advocate that people with disabilities should be sterilized for the greater good, you might be a dick.
If you take sadistic pleasure in separating children from their families at the borders, you might be a dick.
If you come to rehearsal and you don't know your lines, and you give me a hard time, like, you're a dick.
Wait, that's not really how it works.
Ron, do you know what a dick is?
Are we not?
All right, if you leave your shopping cart right in the middle of a parking space because you think your time is too valuable to walk literally seconds back to the cart receptacle and thereby inconvenience the next person because you are a dick, you might be a dick.
If you feel it's necessary to call the police because a black man is waiting for a friend at Starbucks, you might be a dick.
If you're an organic vessel that emits semen and urine, you're a dick.
I mean, I guess technically, but that's not what we were...
You're such a dick, man.
Welcome to the Wildcard Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Eaton, and my co-pilots on this journey to wherever are my good friends, Jeff Curtis.
Hello!
And what do morons, Enron, and L. Ron Hubbard all have in common? Ron Blair.
Hey!
All those things.
I meant to go, oh, hey! Or no, wait. I meant to do something. I meant to go, hey, everybody! Hey, wait a minute! That's what I wanted to do.
That's the one.
It's still early.
Speaking of Ron
my
Blair
eyes feel bloody.
and morons.
Unfortunately for our listeners, we don't ever go back and redo anything.
Nope.
No,
So, you get what
it's
you
all
get.
raw footage of us, man.
Ron,
These are the outtakes.
speaking of Ron Blair
Right,
and three
right.
morons, what is this podcast all about?
The Wildcard Podcast is... let me try it again.
The podcast.
I'm having a stroke, fellas.
The loud man.
Listeners, call, get me medical attention.
Yeah, by now,
Please,
it's
listeners.
probably too late.
It'll be 4 days later, please. The Wildcard Podcast is about compassionately discussing your symptoms and having our staff of medical professionals diagnose your maladies and suggest curative avenues. The Wildcard Podcast will even call in your prescriptions. Isn't it time to beat your disease? Isn't it time for the Wildcard?
We'll punch it right in the face. Right in that stupid
Whose
disease's
website did you
face.
steal that from?
I just made it up outside while I was smoking a
I
cigarette.
like the restorative properties of the Wildcard Podcast.
Thank you.
That's what we're here
Thank
about.
you. Who do you think writes this shit? Do you think you just walk into a doctor's office and magically there's words? No, it's people
write-
like me that write that shit. I have done that for a living, sir. People do that.
All right. Well, now that you know that the Wildcard Podcast will cure what ails you,
Yep.
let's talk
Absolutely.
about something else we do here at the Wildcard Podcast, and that is talk about ourselves. Because that's what we do.
That's what's
what we do.
important.
That's the thing that we've been doing for 52 weeks now.
What's it for?
52 weeks.
Like a year if you were to do it.
Yeah,
Us
consecutively,
doing
yeah.
it week by week.
Yep.
It's a year. It's our year anniversary, but not.
One of the most common
Yeah.
things that we talk about are movies.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
we're also actors.
Actors.
Yes.
We're actors.
Yes. We're
So-
performers.
Yeah.
But we don't play with
We
scissors.
do not play with scissors.
No.
So my
We don't
question
run
for
with
you
them.
guys is, as enlightened moviegoers,
Yeah.
what are some movie roles that you would like to play? Like from movies you've seen, you're like, oh, I would love to do that part.
I always wanted to play Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar.
Okay.
Like the movie version
Yeah.
of Jesus Christ
Yeah.
Superstar. That would be you.
I almost bought
And a
the.
loincloth.
Did you watch the live
Well,
version?
when I was younger and thinner.
That's fair.
Did you watch the live
still
version
wanna
with
see it,
John
though.
Legend and
Yeah,
Sarah
no.
Bareilles? I saw it at Barnes and Noble. I thought about picking it up because it's pretty cheap, and I know John Legend is awesome, so I thought I would enjoy that.
I saw the first
didn't.
10 minutes of the live Sound of Music, and I went,
Oof.
never again, never, ever again.
Now the one thing about that is Christian Borle played Max, and as
know,
someone who
I
played
know.
that part as a younger person, that was kind of an inspiration. I used his performance to kind of influence mine.
Well, here's what happened. It was Audra McDonald, so I'm going, oh, this is so good. It's so pretty. And then Carrie Underwood sang, and I went, never again. Never, never.
She can
Thank
sing,
you. She can sing.
but she just didn't have character.
I couldn't look at her face when she was doing it, though.
Okay.
I was like, there's nothing there.
It's pretty, though.
It's,
I
well,
can look at her
sure.
face.
It's kind of pretty, but...
Kind of pretty. Okay.
It's like you may as well put a bandaged mummy up there. It'll be the same face.
I
You
would
go,
watch that.
I would be more likely to watch a mummy. If there were a mummy playing Maria, I would probably have watched other musicals on
Ron,
TV.
if you were to say, what's one genre of film that isn't my favorite?
1980s movies.
Like, are you,
What is your stereotype of kind of movies that I don't like?
that you don't like?
Yeah.
Oh, comedies?
Right?
Comedies.
Yeah, comedies.
You just don't love comedies.
It's not entirely true, but it's not my favorite genre,
Yeah.
and yet some of the roles I want to play are from comedies.
Well, that's because those are fun to play.
I would love to play Buddy the Elf. I'm not tall enough because he's like tall, and
Wait,
that's
Buddy the Elf
from the movie Elf with Will Ferrell.
Oh, Buddy! I
I would
think an elephant for some reason. I'm like, what's an elephant?
I would enjoy that role.
Okay,
The
yeah.
humanity.
Yeah,
But like the
that's
number
fun.
one for me in terms of comedies is Jack Black's character in School of Rock.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, of
Because
course.
it's,
of course.
there's a musical version of that, but unfortunately I can't sing.
And you could pull that off though. You'd be good at that. I'd want to play. What's his name? McGavin. Not Darren McGavin, but McGavin. His character in Psycho, the detective.
Oh, okay.
Arbogast. I would want to play Arbogast
Okay.
in that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Not Norman Bates.
No, I don't want to play Norman.
Yeah.
I'm not. I would care too much about the project to put myself in the lead role for that because I'm not Norman Bates. That needs to be somebody. Although, if you base,
You made me
like,
Norman Bates in one of our trailers.
Oh hell yeah, I did. You've got the Bates-ish kind of thing. I would make you Norman Bates.
That's not a good thing. I don't think that's a compliment. You got that Bates-ish
Somewhat.
kind of thing.
That
You got
made
that.
The Norman Bates-ish quality. No, I'm not Norman.
Okay.
But the description of Norman is very much me.
Yeah, but
Which
the
is-
description of the question wasn't what did you think you could
do
do,
well.
or
What do you
what would
want-
be the
what do I
appropriate
want to do?
role.
No, I don't want
It's
to
what
play
do you want to do.
Yeah, but then it conflicts with what I think is best
That's
for the
fair.
project in general.
And you've got a director's kind of mindset. So I
Yeah,
think that's
like I would. I was about to say I'd love to play Professor Plum in Clue, but there's no reason I couldn't play Professor
Yeah.
Plum in Clue. It's Christopher Lloyd is.
Well, there's a stage version of that as well.
I've heard it's awful though.
Really?
I
I
would
enjoyed
need to
it.
read it for myself. So you've read
It was
it.
a long. No, I saw it a long time ago. It was at International Thespian Festival.
And it was
so
enjoyable.
I enjoyed it.
Was it the musical version or no?
I don't believe so.
I'll have to take a look at that. Was it a farce like the movie was?
Yeah, and there were multiple
Okay.
endings. You know, there's
Okay,
multiple ways
well
that
that's
it ends.
interesting. I'll have to give that a read because I love Clue. It's
Yeah.
one of my favorites.
One thing, in addition, I don't want to stop this discussion of who you want to play. One thing I also put some time into thinking of is who I think you two should play, like some characters.
Oh.
So if we want to kind of play that route, we could do it as well. But
Oh, okay.
I don't want to stop you from movie roles you'd like to do. Because when I was a kid, this was the game we played after every.
Sure.
It was
We
like, what Star Wars character would we be?
Right.
What Lord of the Rings character would we be? And all those like fun like.
Well, when I was a kid, I could imagine myself playing a lot more roles.
That's
than
fair.
Right,
That's fair.
right. You can always make yourself older. You can't make yourself younger.
Right.
I would love to be Jason Bourne, but there's no way I could pull that off.
Man, those fight scenes. Oh, that first Jason Bourne movie.
Well, The Lost World, like Jurassic Park had come out, and I went to college, and they
Okay.
were making The Lost World while I was at college, and I was reading the book, and I wanted to play Eddie so
Eddie
badly
Carr,
in
yeah.
that one, Eddie Carr, really badly. I was like, oh, I can do that character.
You don't want to be
He's-
Dennis Nedry from the first one?
No, that's Wayne Knight. He's correct. He's
Okay.
correct for that.
Got it.
I couldn't
Now,
do any better than
I just
him.
saw Fallen Kingdom yesterday.
Yeah, how was
I
that?
went up and saw it in IMAX 3D.
Yeah?
And I don't know that 3D is necessary at all for
Right.
it, but I was affected by that movie.
I heard somebody whose opinion I don't exactly trust say that it was his favorite since Jurassic Park, since the original '93 film.
I might buy that.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I liked it a lot better than Jurassic World. I liked it a
Yeah.
lot better than Jurassic Park 3.
Well,
But the thing is, I didn't leave going, man, I really enjoyed that.
Right.
I left going, that got me. Like I was
Yeah.
leaning forward in my seat. I was affected by several moments about that movie.
well, I
I'm
feel
not
that
gonna pretend it's
the original affects you. It
Well,
should
this one's more
affect
like the
you.
original, and it's got the horror elements.
Yeah, the original was
in.
fun. It was a whole lot of fun. But
Yeah.
boy, when you walked out, you had to
There were a
unclench your
lot
ass
of
cheeks. I did.
moments. There were a
It
lot
was
of moments
tense.
in this one that harkened to the first and second movies.
Yeah.
A lot of which like very very particular callbacks.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, that's good.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm biased. I'm the Jurassic Park kid, so
Sure.
like I'm completely biased about it. But yeah, that's a good one. That was one where like I wanted to be Alan Grant when I was a kid. I wanted to grow up and be Alan Grant.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of kids did. Jurassic Park really injected a rejuvenation.
So when I
Which character is Alan Grant?
He's Sam Neill,
Sam
the
Neill.
main one.
Okay.
the paleontologist.
I wasn't sure if that was him or if you want to be Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, Ian Malcolm.
Yeah, now that'd be a fun one to play.
Yeah, Ian Malcolm
I'd rather
would be a hell of a lot of
play
fun to
Ian
play.
Malcolm, I think, but I wanted to be
Right.
Sam Neill when I grew up. So when I was thinking about Jeff
Yeah.
as a movie character,
Okay.
I was thinking like Wizard. wizened,
Gandalf.
sage-ish
Like a
wizard.
Gandalf kinda
Gandalf
guy.
was the kind of the guy who came to mind.
Yeah.
Because he's the voice of reason in the podcast.
Or Dumbledore.
Yeah, okay. I can see either of those.
that'd be fun
I'll
to
say
play.
this, though. From Harry Potter universe, I don't see him as Dumbledore.
No?
I see him as Mad-Eye Moody.
See, that's what I want to play. I want to play Mad-Eye
Slughorn,
Moody.
like Slughorn, one of those two guys. One of those other wizards.
Right.
But Mad-Eye Moody is one of the ones I like. I think I could see you in that.
I wanted to play Mad-Eye Moody so badly. And I like, who was it, Brendan Gleeson?
I don't
Is that his
recall.
name? I can't remember his
that's
name.
what it was, yeah.
But it's hard to top him.
Yeah.
But this is one of those rare cases where I care more about me than the actual project, and I want to play Mad-Eye Moody. That would be a fun role to do.
Now, Ron, what I envision for you is
Yeah.
not so much a specific movie,
Yeah.
but it's a horror movie.
Okay.
Okay. And it's a group of people,
Yeah.
and they're in some sort of isolated situation with a couple, typical horror trope.
Right.
And you've got your people who fit the stereotypes, kind of like Cabin in the Woods. You've
Right.
seen that
Oh,
one?
yeah, yeah.
But not as necessarily comedic focused.
Yeah.
But I picture you as like the best friend character who's funny and likable.
Right.
And you're like cheering for this guy, but you're pretty sure he's going to die early on.
Yeah.
Except he's the killer.
Oh, that's good. I like
Like
that.
there's some sort of twist.
That'd be accurate.
Like there's some sort of
Totally
twist in
wrong.
the
Yeah.
end where it's like there's some reason why he's got this feeling of
Right.
entitlement or everyone else got to die, but you're liking him the whole time until you're like, oh shit. He's
felt
the
like,
killer.
Well, when you said that, I was honored, of course, because
Yeah.
I love horror films. But then I was like, I'm the second one dead.
That's what
Like the girl dies first, and then it's my turn.
That's what I was
how it
expecting,
goes
and except
every
like,
time.
no, you think he's dead.
Yeah.
But it's not like in Cabin in the Woods where the pothead that you think is dead is the killer. In Cabin in the Woods, he comes back at the end, kind of saves and
Right.
ruins everything.
Yeah.
But no, you're the killer, man.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah.
Let's do it. We'll write it. We'll print
Okay.
it. We'll make it.
Okay.
Any other
done.
movie roles you guys like really would like to? Because when I did the game of Who Are You in Star Wars, I was always told I was R2D2. Which then when I got the
I can totally see
Yeah.
when
that.
I got the Shakespeare
Or
screenplays,
C-3PO.
like I've got the Shakespeare versions of. Have you ever read those?
No.
What's that?
The-
Star Wars.
Yeah,
no,
it's
I've
the
heard of it.
novelization, but screenplay Shakespeare. R2D2 beeps and squeaks in iambic pentameter when he's conversing with the other characters, but he'll have asides where
Wow.
he speaks English.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
So it's like he's not like the narrator, but
Yeah.
he is like he's not like the main character either, but he's a very integral part of those books. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll be R2D2. That's fine.
Yeah.
I wanted to be Chewbacca, but I was R2D2 because he was always like dumb lucking into things
Right.
and like saving the day, but no one notices.
I think if they ever remade Caddyshack, I would want to play Rodney Dangerfield's character from that.
In everything.
Yeah, why not?
What about Belushi?
I thought about that. Blues
John
Brothers
Candy?
came up. but
John
I don't-
Candy?
Now, John Candy, yeah, I would want to play Uncle
Planes,
Buck
Trains, and
and Chet
Automobiles.
and, from Great Outdoors, and then Planes, Trains, and Neil Griffith.
Home
Wait,
Alone.
Del Griffith. No, which one's which? Home Alone. Oh yeah, he's the
Polka King.
the polka king in the back of the truck. Yeah.
I always want to be John Wayne.
I can see you were raised in the time where they really idolized John Wayne. I could still see the idolization.
We used to go
during
to
the
every
younger
John
part of
Wayne
my
movie.
life.
Yeah, when it came out.
Yeah, because back then that's what you did,
I want to be Tom Hanks because he and I shared a birthday.
and that would be neat too. But this thing, not to diminish
That's
what
fair,
you were
that's
just
fair.
saying, but I really am interested in the time that Jeff grew up in.
Yeah.
Because when I was young, like between my first memories and 6 or 7 years old, Westerns were the shit, man. They were still the thing, and
Even
kids still
into
wanted
my-
to
They
be
were until
cowboys.
Star Wars. Star
Yeah,
Wars
the
killed
Star-
Westerns.
yeah,
Even
totally.
in my childhood, there were still TV shows of westerns, but you're right. I didn't grow up caring about westerns.
No.
Now, one of
No.
my best friends did. Because
Yeah.
I think it's probably because of his parents. Like, that's what they loved. So
Well,
I probably watched
yeah,
them
that
as a
makes a
kid.
difference.
But I didn't watch westerns much as a kid. There were a couple, like Tombstone. I really liked Tombstone.
Right.
A couple of them, but really, it's not a genre that spoke to me.
I tried. I really tried, and I just couldn't get into it. But probably, like you said, because of Star
Well,
Wars.
Well, you look at
Space
most westerns
Western.
now. Most of them are pretty dated with their themes and
Right.
and racist portrayals of Indians and things like that. At
Yeah.
the time, we weren't aware of that, or I wasn't aware of that, and
Sure.
they were just good guys and bad guys, but you have that you have those same stories in outer space and
genre, yeah.
superhero
Right.
movies now, and so you don't need the westerns because instead of looking backwards for our heroes, now it's looking forward.
Right.
For our
I will
heroes.
say, there's a video game that came out a couple years ago called Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, holy shit.
Did you play it?
Oh, yeah.
See, I never played, but it's a western.
a lot.
It's a western game, kind of in the vein of a Grand Theft Auto style game.
Yeah. It
But,
is. Grand Theft
but it's
Auto
one of the
on
best video
horses.
games that come out in the last probably 10 years.
I guarantee it. The gameplay was so good, and it just draws you in, at any moment you could be taking like a fort down in Mexico, or the geography is so vast that you would find yourself in like what we think of as Wyoming, like one of those towns that's a little colder, a little more up in the mountains.
How many thousands and thousands of hours of coding does it take to create these worlds?
Especially one like that one.
Well, there are a few, like some people release a game once a year, but I think they use the same engines and just replace the skins on everything.
Yeah.
But there are games like anything Bethesda do 5-6 year turnaround.
Well, and then
like
Red Dead Redemption 2, I think, is coming out this fall.
Yeah.
But it's been 5 years since the last one.
Like minimum 5 years.
The sequel did not come out quickly because they really have put time into this.
No, they really, and I love games like that where they take time to craft what they're doing and really
I could
create
still see Jeff being
stories.
like a sheriff or a marshal.
Oh, that'd
like
be
a lighter kind of.
You know who you'd be great at is Bill in Unforgiven. The Gene Hackman character. That you'd be great at that.
I would be great at that.
Yeah.
Can I be Gene Hackman in Hoosiers?
Yeah.
Because that's Indiana.
Yeah, that's Indiana. That's your pride right
Who
there.
are you going to be Gene Hackman from?
I would be Gene Hackman from
The Package.
I was about to say one of his older movies, like a Popeye Doyle kind of
French
character.
Connection?
Yeah, like the French
I
Connection
can see you
guy.
as
Who's
French
just kind of
Connection
crusty and done with it, and just,
Chinatown.
Yeah,
that's not.
No, that was
that's not
Jack
Gene
Nicholson.
Hackman.
But
That's Jack Nicholson. Yeah.
that's totally me too, right there. That's what a smart ass Jay Gittes is. That would be me. Yeah.
Does Jack Nicholson make movies anymore?
I don't think so.
Been a while.
Is he retired or is he just not hireable anymore?
Well, I'm curious whether
His health could be a problem too.
Well, there's health, and then like Sean Connery couldn't. I mean, it just movies became not too much for him,
but he wouldn't even read
memory
scripts,
wise and stuff like that. You just, he came to a point where he's like, what am I going to do to reinvent myself or make people interested? Or because if you do a movie every year, they just get used to you and take it for granted. So I don't know if he comes back, which he obviously doesn't have to do. It'd be something big, some big cameo or something like that. But I think all in all, he's done being a movie star.
Yeah.
We might see him at the Oscars smiling in the front row like we do every year, but that's about it. I think.
All right,
and he's earned it. He's earned whatever exile he wants. Some of those guys put in enough work.
Hopefully, he still has some of his money.
Yeah. I'm sure. How long would it take you to run out of the kind of money that he got paid, like even in the 80s?
I don't know. It depends on how much you got paid and how much you invested,
right.
whether you were partying with it.
See, I think we hear about the ones that don't spend it well.
Yeah.
Eventually, we hear about these guys because it's either tax evasion that they're caught for, or some kind of thing like that.
Well, tax evasion is just stupid. Pay your taxes, and then the rest of your money you don't have to worry about. You try to keep more money, and then you lose it all and go to jail. It's
I remember within a few years, it was like Ray Charles and Willie Nelson, like both of them.
Yeah, well, Willie Nelson took bad advice from his attorney or from his accountant, who told him to do this
Wesley
investment,
Snipes.
and then
Red Fox.
Well, Wesley Snipes spent time in jail for tax evasion.
Yeah.
Willie Nelson just had to pay $40 million in back taxes.
Because he probably had $40 million.
Well,
he gets 40.
He had to tour a lot to make back that $40 million.
He gets $40 million every time Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain plays.
No, he doesn't.
He gets $40 $40 maybe?
He gets $5 every Tuesday.
There you go.
Still a shitload of money
on
for as old as he is. If he put all that $5 in a
He
coffee
smokes
can.
a lot of pot.
Oh, that's true.
Any other
That's the cheapest drug there is.
any other closing thoughts on movies and you'd like to play or movie roles for the other guys?
I actually would like to do a Western at some point myself.
That would be fun.
I don't think I'd be very good in a Western. Just for my lack of experience.
Well, I'm thinking like Roy Clark in Uphill All the Way.
I wanna play-
where it's not really a Western, it's a comedy Western.
I just want to
or
play.
something
I want to play
like
a
that.
villain in something. I
A
just
million
want
ways
to
to
play
die
a
in the West, or
villain.
a thousand.
Something like that, or Wagons East with John Candy, or Almost Heroes with Chris Farley. That kind of. It's a comedy.
Paint Your
set
Wagon
in
with
Clint Eastwood. I've
and,
never seen it. I'm not watching that. Is it
It's funny now, especially.
like watching Lee Marvin sing or
watching
whatnot?
Lee Marvin. It's worth it to see Lee Marvin sing.
I've
Yes.
heard this. I've heard it's worth it just to watch Lee Marvin and Paint Your Wagon.
Pass.
Oh, he's incredible in the show. It's a funny movie, but
it? Yeah.
but it's very dated, and it's if you can turn off your brain and just go for the ride, it's fun.
Oh, I would want to play Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now too. The Marlon Brando character.
Yeah.
I could act the shit out of that.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, I'd chew up the scenery, and the Thailand people that I have to feed upon to keep existing.
I don't think that's how it works.
No, Kurtz wasn't a cannibal, but he would murder.
Yeah,
he would
we
easily
would
murder.
all murder.
In the sign of it's what's best for the community.
Yeah.
He's an interesting character.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Well, when you start to see Kurtz's point of view, he's a villain throughout that whole movie, and then when he starts talking, he starts making sense,
Explain.
and it's bad that he makes sense.
Well, that's like
To you as a person, you go,
you've seen the movie. You still haven't read Watchmen, have you?
No.
Ozymandias at the end, like he is the villain throughout the entire thing. All you don't know is know it. Spoiler,
Yeah.
spoiler alert after the fact.
Sorry, kids.
But in the end, when he gives the explanation, you're like, oh damn it! Like what he did saved a lot of people, but man.
These compelling characters.
It's Thanos.
I feel Thanos is the same way.
He's essentially Thanos.
When it's a guy who's doing these horrible things, but then you find out their reason, and it's a really altruistic reason that they've talked themselves into this is the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty scary. I'm sure there have been Bond villains that have
Well,
made sense in a way where it's
Some
like
of
I'm
them.
doing the right thing.
Not all of them. But they're
They're more tropish than other films
Right,
too.
right.
They have to be more the stereotypical
Over
villain,
the top,
holding
yeah.
the
Yeah.
cat and all that. But every once in a while, I think we see villains that they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to do good, and they know that they're going to be vilified for doing the right thing. It's just interesting human dynamic.
It's a debate whether or not they have the right stuff.
Oh! Who were the bad guys in the right stuff? The Russians. That was
Always.
it. Always the Russians. Yeah.
Putin.
Commies.
It was the and
random.
nobody will take our advice and watch the right stuff. I guarantee it. But god damn, it's a good movie.
It's a great movie.
You just have to be patient with it. It's long.
It is long,
And you have to want to watch it.
Probably not going to want to watch it more than once, but
No.
it's worth
There are
watching
movies
once.
like that.
But god damn, it's good.
Yeah, it is really
It's so
good.
good, just the way it's staged and the way it tells that story. We got to go on. Jeff has got to do.
I've
this
gotta-
thing 'cause
Jeff's got a
I've got a whole.
go on
He's got
about
shiny
the right
paper.
stuff.
He's got some shiny paper.
Shiny paper.
All right, are we ready for the
It's a
report?
Jeff-isode
ready.
time. Let's do
I'm
some
ready for
Jeff-isode.
this
Okay, so I'm going to try and lighten our.
I remember you
mood.
specifically said
Yeah.
last time that Ron was going to dig this.
Oh yeah, Ron's
Yeah.
going to love this,
Yeah, that I'm all into.
or
this.
else I assume he's going to love this. He might not.
If he doesn't, we don't care.
All right, so gentlemen,
Yes.
today we are going to be talking about a legend of the stage and screen.
Oh, okay. Is it
Oh,
Ron
so
Blair?
is it me?
It's interesting that we started this whole thing about talking about movies.
Yeah.
So we are going to delve deeply into his life and times and discover how he rose from humble obscurity to become the national treasure that he is.
Oh my God, it is
no.
me. It's me. You're talking about me. You
This is a
interviewed
man with
everybody I
over
know.
40 stage and
I think you're a
film
local- I
credits
think you're
to
a
his
local
name.
treasure.
Think it could still
And
be
not
me.
only
It could
is
still
he
be
an
me.
actor, he is also a director, writer, and producer.
This could still be me.
I'm really nervous.
Okay, so let me start out with a question.
Oh, gosh.
All right, what actor has portrayed such varied roles as Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof,
Oh, good Lord.
It could
Fagin
still be
in
me.
Oliver,
It could still be me.
and Cornbread in Mountain Mafia?
Oh my God, it's me.
Is it Ron Blair?
It's Ron Blair.
Oh, my
Me. Oh my God, are we talking about me?
We're talking about Ron Blair.
Entire-
Oh, let's reach
That's
deep
right.
into that
Today's
closet full
report
of
is
skeletons.
about the Treasure of Hardin
Are you
County.
shitting me?
Wow.
Ron Blair, a.k.a. Reaper M. Jones.
Now
Wow.
people are going to find out about the life that I had before
Oh,
I
yeah.
I
started
do think
doing
it's
stage work
important,
again.
as much as he hates it, to point out his true name.
Reaper M. Jones.
What,
Yes.
Beelzebub?
Ronald Allen Blair.
Ronald
Oh,
Allen Blair.
God. IMDb won't change it no matter
Yeah.
how much I plead. I've stopped writing them like 10 years ago because they just don't listen.
Wow.
So before we get started, I just want to acknowledge and
Oh,
thank
you
my
shitting
research
me?
assistants.
Mackenzie
Without
Blair?
help, yes, Mackenzie Blair. I could not have done this
Oh,
report.
I gave her a treasure trove. on
Oh, I
Friday.
know, and she said it to me.
You son of a bitch.
Wow.
It's your surprise.
She did tell you a
What a
surprise was coming.
surprise.
All right, so the
I
treasure.
feel like I don't
I feel like I should just leave. I don't think I'm needed.
Oh, you might have some interjections. Who knows?
I'm sure I'll
The
get
treasure had
something.
humble beginnings. He was born to an unknown mother and father.
That's true.
On July 24th, 1973, as
Also true.
he was separated from them as they illegally tried to cross from Indiana into Louisville.
Right.
And
This is actually not documented, folks. This is actually, we
Okay.
can't verify that bit of information.
but his first name was David.
That's
before
true.
becoming adopted by Isabel, also known as Patsy
Yeah, she
Blair,
hates
and
Isabel.
Ellis, also Leon Blair.
Yeah.
Really, it's
So
just
just not
Patsy and
going,
Leon.
not going by their name is a big part of the family.
That's kind of a thing. Like,
Yeah.
as I was growing up, my brother went by his middle name, and my sister went by her middle name.
Wow.
And I was the only one that went by my actual name.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was on purpose. It was just a matter of oral aesthetics.
Now, were you Ronnie as a kid?
Yes, of course I was. even people from Rhineyville still call me that. And then if people who watch those people do it, and then they try to do it, and my answer is always, why do you think it's okay to call me that? I sincerely want to know.
Yeah.
And they always get scared, and they just say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I go, well, that's fine. Just it's Ron.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Ronnie.
Oh, no, Jeff. No, we don't do that. We don't do
Oh,
that.
don't
here.
we? Oh,
we
don't
do
we?
not.
Don't we?
Please do not.
This is my presentation, not yours.
God.
Growing up as the middle child with his older brother Scott and his little sister Leanne,
Yeah.
Ron spent most of his time in his bedroom watching TV and playing video games.
Who talked to? Did you talk to my parents? Did somebody talk to my parents?
I didn't talk to your
'Cause that's
parents.
That's what they would have said.
Yeah.
Though he played baseball, he never really felt as if he belonged in the world of sports. To him, the most important things were video games and horror movies.
It's true. That's inarguable.
On Sunday mornings, he would sit next to the radio, and if a song started to play that he liked, he would record it. He was particularly drawn to hits from the 80s, like Phil Collins or The Cars.
It was the 80s.
Yeah. I was particularly drawn to music that was on the radio.
Now, mind you, I did go to church every Sunday.
Yes, as it says right here, after church, he'd sit and read the Sunday comics. But specifically, I have a note from Kinsey to say, ask him about Phil Collins and Cats.
Phil Collins and Cats.
Like the musical or just the
Well,
the
the musical and the musician.
Okay.
I feel that they are both at the absolute top of mediocrity in their field. Like, it's the best quality you can get and still be just, okay.
See, I disagree about Cats, the musical.
And a lot of people would.
I'm not going to argue that it's the greatest musical of all time,
Yeah.
but it is a very particular musical. It is the musical about which I would never recommend it to anyone.
I really feel like.
we
But I
talked
would.
about
But
that,
if it ever is coming, I would see it.
How many times have you recommended somebody to listen to Susudio?
Never.
I mean, I agree.
Cats is the Phil Collins of Broadway musicals. That's my point.
But I think Cats is good.
Well,
I just
so is
wouldn't recommend
Susudio.
it. Is
I
it?
just wouldn't
I don't
recommend it
think
to
it
anyone.
is.
It's okay.
It's a decent
You know,
song. If you
10 million people in
don't
the
want
80s would
to
disagree.
If you don't wonder what the hell Sue Studio is,
And you don't care either. You're
Well,
not,
I kind of do.
do you care? That's not a song that I was like, I gotta
some
listen to
Genesis
lyrics.
songs. I like Phil Collins from Tarzan.
Oh, that's
like
good
the
Phil
Tarzan
Collins.
soundtrack.
I like Phil Collins just in
don't
general,
know that I like
but
Phil
I
Collins.
feel like he's the height of
Mediocrity?
Phil Collins. Yeah, the height of
Okay.
mediocrity.
All right. Continuing. Ron had a passion for movies.
Jesus Christ, I did.
I still do.
His
All
love
I ever wanted.
Yeah.
His love
To work in
included The
film.
Goonies,
Yeah.
Ghostbusters,
Oh, yeah.
and Star Wars.
Oh, absolutely. Those were my. It's not fair to say those were my three favorites because you can't nail down what my favorites were, but I did have Ghostbusters on tape, taped off from HBO. My cousins had HBO, and so they would do the VHS tapes, the 6 hour long, so you get 3 movies on each one. And I replayed Ghostbusters a lot. I didn't see it at the theaters, and I always felt like
You missed out.
I missed out. All my friends had seen it. All of America saw it at the movie theater.
I
but
saw it
me.
at the movie theater,
Yeah.
I've never seen it all the way through.
Oh,
Really?
it's so good.
Nope.
It's
You
so funny.
never made it to the giant Pillsbury Doughboy?
I know of it. Like, I know
man,
so many of
no.
the tropes.
That's-
There's a lot of movies like that where it's like, I get
Yeah.
it. I know it, but I've never seen it. But I know
Right,
a lot of it.
right.
So it's like I don't have a desire to go in because it's not unknown.
Right. All of those movies I had on tape, by the way. I had. On
I didn't see The
VHS.
Goonies till I was in high school.
I've never
My
seen The
friends loved it.
Goonies.
My friends loved it. Like, haven't you seen this? And they made me watch
You've
it.
never seen it?
But I was too old. Like, it
no
didn't
interest.
connect.
Well, I was about to say, when you're 13, it can like
Oh, yeah.
change the way you think about things.
I had movies that were
It's
like that for
stupid,
me. It just
but
wasn't that one.
It's like when you watch Back to the
It's an
Future in
adventure.
1985 and you go, "Oh, my life is different now."
Yeah.
And that's how The Goonies was. But if you're anywhere, in between a certain age or beyond a certain age, it's not going to work
Yeah.
for you. It's just not going to have that same impact.
But I can look at it and see why, if I'd been of a certain age, it would have meant something
Absolutely,
to me.
absolutely.
The treasure hunt aspect.
You just bond with those characters.
Yeah.
You are at least one of those characters
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
somehow when you're a kid, and so when they go and you want adventure as a child,
would've been short
obviously, you would have been sure. Yeah, I could have seen it. You'd have been Data from the Goonies. Short round.
So why is it that Indiana Jones wasn't on that list until later, Ron?
I didn't. That was another one that by the time it had left movie theaters, that's when all my friends were talking about it, and all my friends had cable. We lived so far out in the country. We had there was no. Even now, I don't think you can get cable at the house I grew up in. And or if you can, it's I don't know. I don't think they offer it out there though. Yeah, it's not. You
could probably get
cable.
DirecTV,
You can
though.
get satellite, yeah. And so that's why when you ride in the country, you see all these satellite dishes. And I envied those people. I was like, why can't I have? We had the 4 channels that you normally get, the
I know
UHF
those,
channels
yeah.
and the regular what's the VHF channels. Yeah, you would get those, and that's all we had growing up. So Temple of Doom was my first. I had seen Raiders of the Lost Ark at a friend's house on cable. I didn't have it on VHS, so I couldn't watch it repeatedly like the others. And then I went to see Temple of Doom at the theaters and thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Still didn't have a copy of that. The first one I ever had a copy of was the Crusade, and by then I was 16. And while I did watch that repeatedly, that was the 16 on is another sort of formative period in your life. So I didn't have access to Indiana Jones as much then as I did later on in life, like in my 20s and stuff. Yeah. Otherwise, he would have definitely been on there.
Okay.
And you couldn't be a kid and play with other kids and Indiana Jones not somehow be in.
Oh, yeah, I would think so.
It was what you played. Yeah. That and Star Wars, you played that a lot. I played that a lot.
Power Rangers when I was a kid. And Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Anyway, Ron's love for all things horror started with a show called Memories of Monsters, a local monster movie special that would show on Friday nights.
God, I don't remember not watching that. Yeah. Like, that's one of my earliest memories.
Was that like... did that come on like 11 o'clock midnight with like Elvira? Because when I was growing up, or as a teenager, it was Elvira, and she played these horrible.
Yeah, you'd always
classic.
That was still on when I was a kid too. Tales of the Crypt and things like that.
Yeah, well, it was well refined by the time it got to you. But during your day, they had kind of wackier characters doing that stuff as you were growing up, I think. And I had it was creepy, but it wasn't over the top. It wasn't cheesy. There were two intros. Excuse me. One of them was a guy sitting at a desk, and he's going over a speech about what makes it scary. And then at the end of a sentence, he goes, "It's the anticipation." And then he would go on with another little speech, and he would end it with, "The anticipation. Patient. And then it would be like, bam, 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 and the RKO thing, or Universal, and you'd be like... in the wilderness of... And that's how I grew up. That was every Friday night, listening to the RKO or the Universal old time.
That actually explains a lot to me about the character that you are when you are doing your just being entertaining.
It kind of should, because that was the earliest the earliest seedling of, oh, how exciting to get introduced to something like that. And you know how the Universal and RKO thing started? Yeah. It was big. It was like, ba ba ba. And then the music from like Frankenstein would start, and you'd go, "Oh, we're gonna see a movie! It's so exciting! It's gonna be scary and thrilling and and that's shit. Who doesn't love that? That's so. Yeah. I was programmed at an early age to love the Memories of Monsters kind of thing. Yeah. This is entertaining. Yeah, I loved it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jared, did you know that some of Ron's other hobbies were reading magazines such as Boy's Life and the Muppet magazine?
I did not know that.
Yes.
Boy's Life, really?
I was a Cub Scout. I was a Weeblo. I was a Boy Scout.
Oh, see, I didn't make it past Cub Scouts. They stopped. They stopped.
I made it to Weeblo and then I stopped.
They stopped inviting me to events.
They wanted, like, my friends were in the Boy Scouts, so I said, sure, I'll do that. And I didn't last a whole long time. I never lasted real long in any of them. But Boy's Life, you'd get, like, that was what Scouts did. You get a subscription to Boy's Life magazine, and it was really good magazine. It was excellent little magazine. And I remember they always, at the end of it, they had the fiction chapters, and they would post a chapter of the White Mountain series, which was kind of like the aliens have invaded, and they have huge tripods everywhere. Yeah. And so it's like I don't want to say underground society, but it's young boys
kind of thing.
It's world, it's kind of like they're there and they're sentient and they're watching over you, and it's sort of an underground movement by Harry Potter aged children who go.
So War of the Worlds meets Red Dawn.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. That is exactly what it was, and it was so intriguing. So each month you'd go, "Oh, what's going to happen in the White Mountain series?" And it's
I could see how that would have drawn me.
Oh yeah. As a kid, I didn't know that it was a series of books. I just thought it was chapters being published in a magazine. And eventually, I did read one of the books that I got out of the library, and it was so good. It's a good series.
I had Goosebumps when I was a kid. The series.
I envied
Animorphs is one of my favorites.
By the time I was an adult, Goosebumps came out, and I was so envious that Goosebumps wasn't around when I was a kid. Like horror for kids.
Madeline loves Goosebumps.
Oh man, it's fun.
Well, speaking of fun, Ron loved video games his entire life.
Oh yeah.
Be it Pong to Atari and then Nintendo and on.
Oh yeah.
When he turned 9, his best friend John Stith moved into the house down the road. This began the Stith era.
Yeah, that was the...
Ron would go to the Stiths a lot in the summer. James, John's older brother, was 10 and John was 8. They went to the pool every single day, unless they had a ball game.
Every day. You didn't play baseball if you didn't.
You don't swim on the days you have a ball game. Right. It wears you out. That's a quote.
That was the thing. It'll wear you out. You don't want to do it because you swim and you just want to sit around. You're like, oh, I'm so tired now.
Chlorine knocks you out.
Yeah, it knocks you out. So you didn't. That was the rule. The coaches were like, don't you dare swim. You don't swim. And we were all members of this country club in Vine Grove. Like we split ours. Because my parents, they didn't make enormous amounts of money. I was spoiled.
Yeah.
It was the 80s. I was spoiled. But my uncle and my dad split the membership, and my uncle took the golf half of it, and we got the pool half of it. And so pool every day. The private pool that was like for rich Catholic kids. That's where I would swim every day, and it was the greatest. They were my people. They were Catholic. At the time, the denomination that you grew up in, those are your people. So it was my Catholic friends, and all of us, we would just go to the pool. It was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, John would pitch and Ron would catch.
Yep.
They started pitching and catching before they were actually allowed to pitch and catch.
On the team, yeah.
Yeah,
he and I were a team.
Their favorite movie was Brewster's Millions.
About a pitcher and catcher.
Because Ron was John Candy and John was a white Richard Pryor.
A white Richard Pryor. It's totally true. I mean, he wasn't as jive as Richard Pryor by any means. John Stiff, I love him to this day. He and his family are the absolute whitest people you may ever meet in your life. There is no ethnicity there whatsoever.
Yeah.
They're very kind and loving, and they want what's best for every human on Earth. They're very kind people, very generous people. But god damn, they are the whitest people you will ever meet in your life. They're the best folks. They're the best people. They really are.
Every time Ron ran away from home, he'd go to the Stiffs. Did you run away from home a lot, Ron?
A lot, yeah.
It was his refuge when things got too real at home.
Yeah. He'd eat.
Those McKinley's for me.
Yes.
That was it. It was your refuge. That's where you'd go. Yeah. Yeah, and not that I had a horrible upbringing. I wasn't Jenny from Forrest Gump or anything where I had to run from being molested or nothing like that. It was nothing close to that. Just my older brother was, I loathe to call it abusive, but it fucked me up for a long time.
Wow.
And I would often run from that.
Yeah, I don't blame you then.
Yeah.
He would eat all the food in their pantry and play video games all the time when he wasn't outside with the mini siblings.
I didn't tell you that I ate all the food from the pantry. Okay, she gleaned that from stories from other people.
I gleaned that from stories from the stick.
One thing is, this could be described me as McKinley's too, because I would talk to the parents, hang out with them.
Yeah,
I would just go into the pantry and be like, oh, they got orange soda, great.
What the Stits would do is, even if I wasn't coming down, they would have a buffet of snacks out at all times, or somebody would be cooking a pizza.
Oh, yeah.
One of those Mama Rose's pizzas that are just good enough for teenage boys. I still eat them. I love them. And that's what you'd have. And back then, that's when you could get the Tater Skins by Keebler, not by TGI Friday. I think does them now, but the Keebler Tater Skins were amazing back then. And pizzeria chips. Do you remember those? They were triangles. They were like Doritos, but they were seasoned with pizza stuff. Oh yeah, those were great. I mean, we'd have cookies and just eat our asses off, play video games. I'm sure it's in the report what our daily structure was.
Well, speaking of video games, here's a quote. You'd start loading a game, and then you'd go outside and play for 45 minutes. Then you'd play. Then we'd wrestle and listen to Weird Al.
Mind you, this is a Commodore 64. So on a Commodore 64, you would insert the disc, and then you would put in the little DOS command. It wasn't even DOS back then, but whatever commands you use. And then, God help you if you thought you could sit there and wait for this game to load, because you'd just be like, we have nothing to do. This is the worst ever. You knew that you were going to be an hour away from playing whatever game you wanted to play. So you'd go upstairs. We'd go out to the tree house, or we'd go for a walk in the woods and swing on vines or whatever. And that's how you'd fill the time. And then you'd come back in and you'd go, oh, there's the G.I. Joe game. Let's take the joystick. That'll show you how old this is. Take the joystick and play with it a little bit. Now, we were into wrestling. We wrestled a little bit, but we were more into pro wrestling. It was... You know, think it's 83,
My brother and I used to, even in the 60s, we would watch wrestling on Sunday morning.
Yeah, that was the thing. Oh, yeah. Yeah, wrestling's great for kids.
So, apparently Weird Al was your first kind of concert thing.
Was. 1984, he was playing for free at the State Fair. And this is after 3D had come out. This was about to go into the Dare to Be Stupid. But with all that was behind him was his self-titled album, which most people don't know about it. And then the 3D album. He's the kind of act you would have seen for free at the State Fair. It wasn't really with Dare to Be Stupid that he took off. I mean, really took off. And And so, yeah, it was my mom and my cousin Jeanette. Now, I have to preface it with, my mom is the youngest of 9 children. So when I say my cousin Jeanette, she brought her son, my cousin Steve, who I was really close to growing up, and he's only 2 years older than me. So when you have a big family like that, and she's the youngest, they're my uncle or aunt's ages, these cousins.
Right. Yeah.
And so my cousin Jeanette, I about, if it wasn't the Stiffs, I grew up at their house as well. And the 4 of us often did things together. And that was one of them. I begged my mom to go to the state fair that year, and Steve begged his mom. And so, of course, it was free. Why not take us?
Yeah.
And my brother had a lot of dealings with the state fair, being in agriculture. Even as a teenager, he would show cows or whatnot up at the state fair every year. So we had a connection to the fair, and with him playing up there, shit. Yes, why not take me? And that was also the first night I ever had a Burger King classic crispy sandwich, the ones that are shaped like a hoagie or whatnot. Fell in love with those that night, too. It was a good night.
Wow.
It was a really good night.
Now, apparently, according to legend, one time the Stiths were going to Opryland, and you begged and begged and begged to go with them.
Yeah.
But they didn't have enough room in the car.
I didn't have room.
Yeah. To Ron, Opryland was, and this is a quote, the shit.
It was the shit. It was Valhalla.
And apparently you were able to go at various times with other people, just not the Stith.
Not this particular time. I had often we went at least twice a year. At least it was either with me or my family or my cousin Steve that I was talking about. We always went to Opryland. It's only 2 hours away, and it was cheaper than Kings Island.
Yeah.
It was more country music centered, so the parents didn't have to suffer through the fakeness of Kings Island's, bullshit rock music that they play throughout the park. Opryland was just, it was nice, it was leisurely, there was shade, which you often don't have at some amusement parks. And so it was like the resort. It's where you'd go during the summer. You'd spend a day at Opryland, and they had great rides, great shows, great rides. It was a great atmosphere. It was a fantastic place to grow up.
Cool.
Yeah. But back to the Stiths and me at Opryland.
Okay. There was a point in time where your mom stopped eating white bread. So you'd escape and go eat all the white bread at the Stiths kitchen? Is that true?
No, that's the opposite. She's giving you false information. No, it's the opposite. John's mom was on a health food kick, and she would only buy wheat bread. So John,
Which is unpalatable.
exactly. When you're 12,
That's fair.
you
When
don't
you're
want
12,
no goddamn wheat bread.
Yeah.
So I say she's a caring mother. She always
Yeah.
tried to do what was best for her kids and have fruit at the table among the cookies and all the bullshit we'd eat.
You just pick around the fruit to get stuff.
So yeah, exactly. So John comes up to the house, and we only ever had white bread, and we're making sandwiches, and I give him white bread, and he puts it on his face, and it's like, that is so nice. That is so smooth, so soft.
Oh my goodness.
Wheat bread is so coarse. When you're a kid, you're like, what is this?
That's
I don't want a hot. Have you ever had a hot dog on wheat
I
bread?
don't like hot dog.
Okay, well, shit. Fans, have you ever had a hot dog on wheat bread? When you're out of white bread, you're out of a bun.
Yeah.
All you have is wheat, and you have hot dogs, and that's all you have to eat, and you put it on the wheat bread, and you go, it wasn't worth it. I've wasted 2 pieces of food right here that are not palatable together. Yeah. Oh, anyway, the thing about Opryland, she didn't even go into the legend part of it. I told her all about that. Here's the thing. I begged him. And then they said, we don't have room. We'd love to take you, but we don't have room. So I go up to my parents, and I'm like, please, we have to go to Opryland tomorrow, because the sisters are going to Opryland tomorrow, and I want to go to Opryland so badly. And so my dad always had this thing where he'd go, well, we'll see. And it could go either way.
Yeah.
It really genuinely could. It didn't mean one thing or another. So the next morning, he gets us up, and it's like, oh, we're going to Opryland, yay! So I was so excited that I got what I wanted. And all the way down there, they're like, the odds of us meeting them down there are ridiculous. There's thousands of people at this park every day. Yeah. So we get down there, and we're waiting in the front gates. And one family back and to the left of us is the Stith family. Is approach up. And so the 3 of us, me, John, and James, we split off into our things, and fuck all I know what everybody else did. It didn't matter. Yeah. I know what me and John and James did that day. It was the best day. And it was, what are the odds that we would be showing each other at the same time, because we didn't know when they were leaving. They didn't know when we were leaving. They didn't know that we were leaving. And there we were, right there. It was destined to be. It was a great day.
Serendipity, man.
Yeah.
So tell me about your dog Bandit.
Oh, Bandit was great. Bandit was the smartest dog who's ever lived. There was like a Lassie intelligence in this dog. She was a half Australian Shepherd,
Oh, good dogs.
half dingo.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Australian
Australian.
Shepherd and
Very
Dingo?
yeah.
Wow.
So
Part
she
of it.
probably wouldn't eat your baby.
No. Probably.
Yeah.
No, Bandit was a very docile dog.
Yeah.
Very sweet, very loving, very caring. She would, no shit, I'm not even kidding. She would look both ways when crossing the street.
Really?
Honestly. And we live so far out in the country, when you cross the street of my house, you were going directly into a ditch, and then a hill, and then a cow field beyond that. But no matter what, she would look both ways until the day she didn't look both ways.
Yes, I have this down that Bandit was hit by a car the same day that your girlfriend broke up with you.
My first girlfriend, who I was so in love with. My heart shattered that day, and then my dog died, and that's my life.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how my life has always gone.
Wow. And apparently you had a turtle that ran away from home?
How fucked up is that? I was 19. My parents were off on a vacation. I stopped vacationing with my parents when I was 14. That was the last one. Not for any reason. It wasn't like,
just didn't want you
I
anymore?
hate St. Louis, I'm not going to vacation anymore. No, they wanted me to go. They were like, you can go. You don't have to go. You can go. And I was like, well, I'm going to spend the week myself, by myself. At
That's
this
your
empty
vacation?
house. Yeah, that was my vacation from them. So yeah, and often I had maybe 2 parties out of all the several times that they left. So I didn't party all the time or anything. But my brother-in-law would often, before I had ever met my wife, he and I were best buddies. And he would come over and he would stay the night there. And I don't remember whether I was partying the night before or not. It's just as likely that I was reading a book until 2 a.m. and then fell asleep. That's
Okay.
I'm not the party guy that a lot of people might think I am, or that I portray myself
That you
as.
are now.
Right, exactly. But I woke up the next morning, got up, the box was tipped over, and the door, which I always kept closed, was cracked, and the fucking turtle
Escaped.
gone.
Escaped.
Disappeared from an 80s style ranch house. Like a big, how ranch houses can be decent size. This wasn't a mansion or anything, but it was like 3 bedrooms and a bathroom off of a long hallway, and that led to a dining room and then a sliding
That
glass
turtle
door to the
had
left.
been plotting that escape.
It was he was sitting
weeks.
down there like
He had a
Hogan's Heroes,
chalkboard.
writing down his
The
plan.
arrows around
How
the
fast
corner.
was this turtle able to move in general before he escaped?
Faster than me, I bet. Apparently. It was like turtle speed. And I get up, gone.
So you were shell
Told it
shocked?
to oh, Jared. Oh no. Yes, that's totally true. It was, how crazy is that a turtle escapes?
That is amazing.
like-
I've never heard of that before.
My
but-
girlfriend breaks up with me, my dog dies, and the fucking turtle runs away. That's my life, guys. That's my every time you guys pick on me, remember, these actually happen to him.
Well, I can understand why your turtle wanted to escape that. But no.
One thing, I've told this to Moira, this is one of the stories that I love. When I went to Western, if you can imagine, I was having trouble adjusting to, we didn't know what social anxiety was in the early 90s,
Yeah.
you know? We didn't know what stuff like that was. We knew what clinical depression was, but if you're a privileged 19,
couldn't have
20-year-old, you couldn't be depressed when your parents have money and,
Yeah.
I've always known what anxiety and depression is, so I would get quite depressed when I was at Western. I didn't like my roommate. I was very lonely. I didn't like myself.
Which one
much
of the
back then.
Dyatlov Pass people was your roommate at that time?
That was Yuri Svigurov.
When I was in elementary school, I would make myself throw up to get out of things.
Yeah, see?
Easily.
It's
Like, I
that
didn't
kind of
even have to- I didn't even have
desperation of,
to-
I can't do this.
It was so easy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was the same way. I would do stuff to, not necessarily to hurt myself, but
Yeah.
same thing where you just be like, I can't be in this situation right now. I have to be out of it. And you can't explain why.
Nope.
Yep.
And so there was one particular night I was walking down the main part of Western's campus, particularly sad, just very lonely and sad at that particular moment. And as I was walking, before I got to each street lamp, they would go off. And it was almost cinematic the way you could do it.
Yeah.
I'm walking down here and just street light goes off, street light goes off, street light. That adds to the depression so much when you go, well, fuck, even electricity runs from me.
Yeah.
You know?
Man.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there's been some sad shit. We don't have to get into that.
Okay, we won't get into that. Apparently, you were an average student, though.
I was.
Who was capable of more, kind of like Jared.
Yeah. I mean, it was only sloth. That was the only reason I was an average student.
So, you always wanted to go to art school, but you didn't tell anybody?
Yeah, back then, what do you tell a parents from Rhineyville, Kentucky? An algebra teacher, which is the most structured of teachers, and a practical housewife, that you want to go to an art school that you don't feel right in the school that you're in. They'd have laughed at it. They'd have told me to suck it up. There was nothing special about me.
And I think from their point of view, it would have been they want what's best for you, even if you don't know what's best for you.
Right. That would be it.
Yeah.
And so,
because my dad was the kind, he wanted me to get a job when I was 5 years old. Like he came from a large family, and they didn't have much, and he wanted better for me.
Right.
But he didn't want what I wanted for me.
Right. That's exactly it. I knew, even before I started performing at 15, I knew I belonged somewhere that they taught creative children. And I felt like I would have excelled if I were taking classes in humanities and stuff like that, rather than the average crap, But again, back then, it's not like the internet could advertise these art schools everywhere, that you just didn't know about them.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm going to skip over your some of your schooling, because I want to get to some of the good stuff, but we can come back to the schooling. But I have a feeling that we'll have lots to say about some of the other stuff.
He's got...
Yeah,
so many pages.
Jeff really researched me here. I really am honored by this.
Well, somebody really researched you.
Well, yeah.
All right, so we're going to talk about you becoming how you became the treasure that you're known to be.
Man, that is a long journey, isn't it?
Apparently, Ron can't remember ever not being funny. You've been funny your entire life. Is that true?
Ever since I was a kid, my parents would always tell stories if I did this or that. There was one time, her asking me reminded me of this story where I had put my shoes on the wrong feet to go out with my mom, and we went to the post office, and my parents knew everybody. They knew every person we ever met. They still do. And I went to the post office, and the lady that my mom was talking to said, "Oh, did you know your shoes were on the wrong feet?" And so instead of taking my shoes off, I just crossed my legs and said, "Now it's fixed."
No, that's fine.
It's better, yeah.
I don't know about you, but for me, humor was a defense mechanism.
And that's likely what it was. It was a way to get people to stop picking on me.
Yeah.
But before I ever went to school and got integrated into society, I remember being very clever, very witty.
Well, apparently your desire to be a performer for the applause began with the magic show in Virginia.
In Virginia. That was the best vacation we've ever had, by the way. I was 8 years old.
So the magician was looking for volunteers for his next magic trick. Was he chopping off heads? What was he doing?
Yeah, it was a campground.
Okay.
That's where we would stand. We were vacationed in a blue Econoline van that would sleep two at the best. It fit all five of us somehow. And we were at this campground, and campgrounds are actually really cool. They're not...
Yeah.
I've been at them. The illusion of campgrounds versus the reality of it, where it is like a little resort kind of.
Well, it depends on the state and the time. I remember campgrounds where the only toilet was an outhouse.
Yeah,
but that most of them have upgraded.
Oh yeah, by the time 1981 came around, it was the nice shower facilities and the nice bathrooms, and they'd have a rec center and a pool and all that. And this was in the rec center. They had a magician there, and he was looking for volunteers. And, me and 20 other kids probably raised our hands, and he chose me. And so I went up there, and I was milking this shit for all it was worth. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never been on stage before. But he put me in that little machine where you put your head in, and then he does the little slide thing up and down, and people go, "Oh, he's cutting his head off." And I milked it. And the audience laughed, and they loved it, and they found me very charming. And so that was probably the first real taste I ever got of the public, the general public, applauding for me or laughing at something that I was doing. And that started it. That was the germ that really got into me.
Apparently, this was not something you got, this applause from baseball?
Not as much as I wanted. Well, I realized, obviously when you're a kid, you hit the ball, people cheer. That's a positive encouragement to want to do the best. And I didn't always hit the ball. I didn't not always hit the ball. I was an average baseball player. I wasn't bad. I wasn't great, either way. Except when I was catching. Boy, I was a really good catcher for as long as my young knees and ankles would hold up. And young catchers only have so many years in them before you either become the superhuman that plays professionally or for the high school team, or you just go, "I can't do this shit anymore." And I just eventually twisted my right ankle. I stepped in a hole, and then my body it was like a 180 thing. It didn't break it, but it still sprained it really badly, and I couldn't catch after that. My ankle couldn't hold that. And so, what was I saying? What was the question?
It didn't matter.
You didn't get the applause.
You
from
didn't get the
baseball.
applause from baseball. So.
Somewhat. I knew that the applause was there. I knew that other kids got it more than I did. And I knew I wasn't a good enough player to get the kind of applause I wanted from the baseball field. It just wasn't going to happen. It wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was great when I was growing up, but it wasn't. I had no interest in being on the high school team or going on to college and playing baseball. It would have been great, but I knew who I was.
Well, back to the report. Apparently, Ron was obsessed with ghosts as a child. In fact, his childhood nickname was Spook.
That's true.
Spook Blair.
I told her my Uncle Charlie used to call me Spook. I wasn't quite aware of what racism was, so it may have been a racist term. I don't know. I don't
Probably
know.
was.
He's the kind of guy that could have gone that route, but still seemed charming because I was a kid. I was innocent. He also called Mad magazine pornography, but I think he was joking with me there too. He was a character. He's dead now. It's okay.
Okay. Apparently,
he did. His family did shit later on in life. There's a lot of my mom's brothers and sisters where I'm like, they died. Whatever. It's fine. My aunt Sis is in hell with her leg that they cut off during diabetes as well, and I still don't give a shit that she's burning in hell with her severed leg.
wow.
She's a bitch.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
Or perhaps a dick. Ron didn't watch a modern horror movie until he was 11.
Ooh, I was scared.
In 1986, they colorized Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah. Now, by then I was 13. I'd already been into horror films.
Okay.
But this is important here.
While he was out trick-or-treating or going to the skating rink, he recorded that.
Yeah.
He and his friend Sean, who would later become his brother-in-law, went to the skating rink a lot. He liked skating, but the arcade was better.
Yayar Kung
As
Fu
it
they
is.
had.
Okay, so tell me about this recording of the colorized version of Night of the Living Dead.
Like, when I was growing up, here's the thing, and I think I've put on here that I've always enjoyed the mystique of modern horror films, seeing it in the papers or watching. There was an Exorcist, when Exorcist played on TV, they would saturate with commercials, and I was always into that and going, oh, how interesting to see that. And so I started watching horror movies, modern horror, when I was 11. By the time I was 13, I had heard of Night of the Living Dead, obviously. You know, back then, before internet diluted everything, you would hear about how classic Night of the Living Dead was. And this colorization thing, we didn't learn to hate it until they started colorizing stuff. And then we really hated it.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen the black and white one, though. This was the first chance I'd ever had to watch Night of the Living Dead. And so it was a big deal that it was coming on Halloween, and Turner had colorized it.
And at the time, there wasn't an oversaturation of this kind of movie.
No, that was a big deal. I think they had colorized one thing before Night of the Living Dead, which they had made a big deal about, and I can't remember what it was, but it was another big advertising thing. And I recorded it, and I watched it the next day, and I didn't get it. And I don't think the colorization had anything. The same thing happened a year later. I watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time. And you hear about this iconic horror film that had terrified people. And then I went to watch it, and by then I'd suckled on the teat of Friday the 13th and Halloween and really gory, bloody movies. And Chainsaw Massacre is fairly bloodless. Night of the Living Dead is fairly bloodless. All the concepts that made it horrifying had already been introduced and reused and recycled. So I didn't understand why these were classics when I finally saw them. It wasn't both of them when I was 19 or 20, and actually, I was 20, working at a video store. That's when I rediscovered those films and realized, once I had grasped my own humanity and recognized that there are lives outside of mine, it's the psycho bell going off.
That's the steam coming out of your ears.
That's just how professional our podcast is.
Right.
That's just what we do.
Once you,
The professionalism gong is going off.
as a human, you gain empathy for other people. And I had performed, I had taken film classes, then I watched those movies, and they were scary.
Yeah.
I understood why they were scary at the time. I still won't watch Night of the Living Dead colorized, though. I don't think it adds anything to it.
I wouldn't think it did.
No, I think it actually takes something away from the feel of it.
The thing is, a lot of black and white movies are specifically filmed and shot as black and white movies. It's not because they didn't have color as a choice.
Right.
They chose to do it in black and white, and you make different choices when you're filming in black and white than you do when you're filming in color.
Hitchcock could have filmed Psycho in color. He had the budget. But
it's better in black and white.
Yeah, don't colorize Psycho, as Gus Van Sant will tell you.
Yeah. So you started at the Playhouse.
Yeah.
As an enormous ball of energy.
That's what I was described as. One of my first directors said, I wasn't the best actor, of course. I had only done one show previous. And it wasn't my acting that caught him, but just this intense amount of energy that I would exude off the stage, which I feel like I still do. Yeah. It's just more refined and controlled now. But back then it was an uncontrollable, just energy.
I call kids like that firebolts.
Yeah.
Where they're just like being carried along by their energy, not really
that was it.
Making decisions. It's just like the energy is carrying them everywhere.
Just doing the part and relying completely on giving it everything. And people loved it. They loved me back in the day.
So is your first show was To Whom It May Concern?
Yeah, by Carol Hall, same person that wrote Whorehouse.
Or and you were asked to play the part in it was a church school play.
Yeah, that was prior to Whom It May Concern.
Is it after this show that you got your first girlfriend?
Yeah.
And what show was it that you then lost her at?
Well, funny, it wasn't To Whom It May Concern. I did To Whom It May Concern in April, and then I auditioned for the summer show and didn't get in, and that devastated me because I was a little pussy who didn't know how things worked. And that fall I did Cheaper by the Dozen, which not the Steve Martin version, it's the Frank Galbraith version, which is a tremendous story. It's an excellent story. I won't go into it, but
was that the female odd couple that you didn't get in?
Yeah, that was the first one I ever auditioned for, and at that time that wasn't devastating. I didn't expect to get cast. First time out, female odd couple. There's not really a character for a 15-year-old me in that. And but after I got in the first play, you get that high horse ego.
Oh yeah, you do.
And so when I didn't get into the second one, which is best, I think, that I didn't get into the second one because it shattered me right off the bat. And then from then I could go in with more realistic expectations. But Cheaper by the Dozen. I had been trying to court this girl all summer long. I was more in love than anybody can ever imagine with this girl. And it wasn't until she saw me in Cheaper by the Dozen that she saw the charisma that I put out on stage and saw that energy. And so it was probably about a month or two after that closed that she decided to acquiesce to my advances,
And then which show was it that she dumped you after?
Dracula.
Okay, so you did Dracula. To Whom It May Concern, and then you did Dracula.
Yeah, there was like a year and a half in between or not even a year and a half. Oh, you did
Cheaper by the Dozen as well.
Well, that's what I meant. Cheaper by the Dozen was the one that we kind of started going out.
Okay.
And then it was during Dracula, we would fight about how often I had to be at rehearsal. And that's, as I learned later, that's a common fight that you have with the people in your life until they learn that you have rehearsal.
Yeah.
And so that didn't help. There was a lot that didn't help. Hell, we were 16 years old, 17 at this point. How often do you stay together with the girlfriend you have?
I work in high school, so...
Yeah, but you want to. Good God, you want to.
Yep.
It was devastating. It shattered me.
Wow, I bet. But then you went on and did Hamlet too, so that must have made you feel better.
Making out with Pam Page made me feel better.
What exactly is Hamlet too? Because it sure isn't Shakespeare.
No. It's a farcical parody of Hamlet that's told modernized, so it's a lot of anachronisms that make it funny. It's not funny. It wouldn't be funny now if we tried to do it. Nobody would get the jokes because they mention a herringbone suit in it. Who the fuck knows what a herring... Nobody knew what it was when did we do that? 1991. Nobody knows what it is now. Those are the kind of jokes where you just go, oh, these are flat. These are all flat jokes. And but I met Pam, and that was cool.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. You didn't mention Pam?
Sorry,
Pam.
That's okay. Ron brought her up.
Yeah.
So tell me about Your Good Man Charlie Brown at ECC.
Man, that was awesome. I had done 4 shows, and I felt like I was starting to get a handle on it. And then Pam, who I was talking about, who helped me get over my other girlfriend. We didn't date. We just messed around, something. And willing partners. We didn't do things, but we did things.
That's why I didn't write it down.
Right. It's probably best. Anyway, she was auditioning at ECC. ECC, as it was called then, Elizabethtown Community College, not ECTC, what it is now. She was auditioning for Charlie Brown, and she said anybody could come and audition. It wasn't just for college students. So I went and I auditioned, not expecting to get anything in it. And I got the call at North Hardin, actually, that the director wanted me to play Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Your Good Man Charlie Brown. And so that was the first show where I was actually playing a main character, playing a lead role. And it was the first one where the community really started paying attention. HCP was largely in Radcliffe, And some people saw the shows, but it wasn't like it is now, you know. And so that was the first one where 6 months later somebody would say, "Oh, were you Charlie Brown?" And I'd say, "Yeah." And they'd go, "Oh my God, what a good show." You know, it's happened to all of us at this point, but that was the first one when at 17, you know, people would stop me and go, "Oh, you played this guy," especially because the next year I went to ECC.
Yeah, and people say you were great as Fagin to me all the
Oh,
time.
I bet they did. Damn it. You were great as Fagin, Jeff.
Oh, thank you very much.
You were amazing as Fagin.
That's one of my best performances.
Absolutely.
Anyway, apparently you and Michelle got married when you were 23 and she was 21 during your Nightmare Forest days.
Yeah.
But you didn't get married in the Nightmare Forest.
No.
Okay.
We were both very religious people. I was still a fairly devout Catholic. She was very Baptist.
And you were living in a van when Mackenzie was born?
Not when she was born. It's possible that she was conceived in a van. I know one of them were. I can't remember which one, but one of our kids were conceived in the back of a van. Yeah. No, I was doing security at Nightmare Forest in 97. I started working there in 96. I was the Leatherface for those guys.
I remember.
And I got into that shit, boy. I was really into it. And then, yeah, I've told the Nightmare
We've talked
story.
about
Yeah,
a lot
so we
about horror
don't-
days.
You were a stand-up comedian for a while, weren't you?
About 5-6 years ago,
What did you do? Where did you perform for that stuff?
all 3 times I did it, all 3 times I did it was at Comedy Caravan.
Caravan?
Yeah, I would do it on open mic nights. I had friends that were doing it up there, and I never seriously looked at doing stand-up as a career, but I know how to do it. You know, I learned how to do it, and I learned what my style and my method of doing stand-up would be. And if I had to do it, like next week, I could without fear
Now,
do it.
but you used the moniker of Reaper M. Jones as a comedian, right? It wasn't Ron Blair.
Not just as a comedian.
Well, I know. I'm going to
Yeah.
get into movie stuff, but
Okay.
did you take that moniker? Did you start the comedy clubs stuff while you were doing the movies or before you did the movies?
Well, it was during when I was doing the movies. I had worked on a film with some guys that were doing the stand-up stuff regularly, and so it was them that really kind of pulled me into it. So by that point, Reaper was just who I was in film,
Right.
and I had been Reaper at this point for like 10 years doing movies, and so I figured Reaper M. Jones is just a better stage name when you're on a different level,
Okay.
when you're going beyond your own community. And so that's just what I went as. It wasn't intentional to do it as that. It was just better.
You'd already established it.
I'd already established
Well,
it.
let me get into your IMDb.
Yeah, some of
bio.
these are not accurate, and I've tried to correct IMDb, and they won't.
Okay, it says Reaper M. Jones was born on July 24th, 1973, in Louisville, Kentucky, USA, as Ronald Allen Blair. He is an actor, director known for Grave Robbers from Outer Space,
True, that hasn't been released yet.
where you played Inspector Daniel Clay. That hasn't been released?
No, and that was what's the date? What date does
It
this
didn't
say
give
on
me
there?
a date for that
No,
one.
I did that 10 years ago. I took a bus up to Chicago, last bus trip I'll ever make.
The zombie movie where you played Reaper.
I can't wait for that to come out.
That hasn't come out yet?
Some of my funniest work.
Mount-
I think the footage got lost.
That was in 2014? I skipped over that for a
Yeah.
reason.
Wait, which one? Oh, the hot plate.
The hot plate, but this wasn't part of the bio, which is why I
Yeah.
skipped over. The hot plate where the Seiko theory,
Yeah.
where you played Maxwell.
And that is available on YouTube. By the way,
Nice.
that's night 21 or 22. You
Now,
recommend.
I looked up a number of movies that you've been in, and the only one I could find any description of is the one I'm going to read.
Okay.
Okay, Mountain Mafia from 2012.
Which was funny. I'm actually in the script more than I'm in the film.
Okay. Just to give Jared an idea, this is Mountain Mafia.
Yeah.
This is the
Oh, where's me?
there he is.
Yeah, look at that tough guy.
Man.
which
Yeah.
you co-wrote with Casey Miracle and Cherokee Hall.
I did, well, Cherokee and Casey wrote it. I did script polishes.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the rolling landscape of Appalachia, beauty resides within each valley and atop the crest
Am I
of
on
each
that
hill. It is the land of bluegrass, horses, coal mines, and tobacco. Under the surface of this delicate veneer, a treacherous underbelly lies. A world stricken with drugs, guns, money, and the mountain mafia rules all. Shortly after the passing of his mother and meeting his soulmate, Dwight begins questioning his line of work and his life in general, and comes to the realization that he wants out, just as his family inadvertently rekindles an old feud with a rival drug family. Now Dwight must make a choice to either leave with his new soulmate or help save his family and risk it all. Blood, bullets, betrayal, and the Mountain Mafia. And you played Cornbread.
I played Cornbread. Cornbread was actually a pretty decent sized character, and then when they started editing the film, Cornbread was not so much a decent sized character. But I have the best line in the film. The line that every single person who ever remembers that film, I get shot by Rupert from Survivor, mind you. What's his last? I can't remember his last name, but Rupert played the bad guy in that movie, and he shoots me. I'm in there with the good guy. Me and him are the ones who make it. He shoots me, and I land on my knees, and the guy goes, "Cornbread, are you okay?" And I go, "No, I got shot in the fucking gut." And that's the line that everybody remembers.
Where do I find this movie to actually watch, man?
If you look up Just Us League films, you might be able to find the address of Cherokee Hall or Casey.
You don't have a copy of it?
I don't know where it is. Okay. If I do, I don't know where it is.
Okay.
I'm sure I do somewhere.
Well, here's the only review that I have, and I don't know who wrote this.
Yeah.
I'm considering that possibly it was you, but the review says, in the interest of full disclosure, I not only worked briefly on the set of this movie, but I consider several people involved in the making of it good friends. However, as a movie lover and a supporter of quality independent films, I can look at the final product with an objective eye. Mountain Mafia is, at its center, a gangster story. You have the typical characters in place, the Don, the hitman, enforcer, rival families, and so on. The story revolves around Dwight, top enforcer for a gangster named Mr. Italy, who decides to move on past his life of crime after a botched collection attempt almost sends him to an early grave. The film follows Dwight's treacherous journey through the crime circles in his hopes to get him and his loved ones out in one piece. While this may sound like a story you've seen before, the characters and setting make the film fresh, while Dwight is the focus of the movie. The surrounding characters add a much-needed complexity to the story. Two standouts are Billy, another enforcer, and
good.
Fran, who cannot keep his jealousy of a former girlfriend in check, and Junebug, Dwight's mentally challenged brother.
I know it was Junebug that I was thinking of. What a good... Billy Blackwell was so good in that role.
Another element that is almost a character in it of itself is the setting of the Appalachian Hills of eastern Kentucky. The movie takes great care in making its world feel real without delving into redneck stereotypes too much. It is a setting that few gangster movies explore, and Mountain Mafia takes full advantage of this. If you love true independent cinema, I would suggest giving this movie a go.
No, I didn't write that.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I didn't write that.
These are some of the other movies to Reaper M. Jones's credit.
Yeah,
All right, let's go through
these. Talk
these.
about some of the... Not talk about them, but I'll give a... Mountain Mafia is decent.
Okay.
It's decent. It was the first script ever written by Casey and Cherokee. Okay. First film ever made by those. And if you've never tried to make a film, a full-length feature, I don't care how shitty the movie is, all respect goes to you for being able to
it's a learning process, just like producing your first musical.
And they did a great job their first time out.
What this is the only other movie that I was able to find a poster for. The zombie movie, it says... Hollywood will eat them alive, and then it says the greatest zombie scene ever filmed.
Try again. It says
the gayest zombie scene ever filmed, and then it has a woman holding a dildo as if it's a knife or a gun.
Yeah.
A guy holding a hairdryer, and another guy wearing nothing but a bathrobe and his underpants and socks, holding a coffee pot that's almost empty.
Yes.
Tell me about this movie.
At the time, there were several of us in the Louisville, Lexington, the Kentucky indie film scene, who had started placing such an importance on ourselves that it begged to be parodied in a film. And so I had worked on a few with Jason and Ronnie, and they're just the best. I love them to death. And they had written a character for me. Everybody was their own names. They were playing themselves, roughly. Except I was the gayest person. They were like, I want you to be the gayest person you can. And I don't know how much...
Funny, I was gay in my first film as well.
Yeah, you're welcome, Jared. This one, I had lines written for me. And then I had an opportunity to improvise. And some of both of those things mixed together is some of the funniest things I have ever done in my life.
Yeah.
It's the funniest work I've ever done. We may never see it. I don't know. The footage got lost or something like that. It's a shame. This movie was absolutely hilarious.
And yet they have a poster of this movie online, but they've lost the movie footage.
Yeah, people care about the announcements of films. They don't care when they get lost, so then they just sit there forever going, oh, I wonder when that's coming out. It's never coming out. It's a shame. It's awful, but it's never going to happen. I wish it would. It was awesome.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
All right, so Grave Robbers from Outer Space, where you've played Inspector Daniel Clay. Well, Intrusion, Disconnected, which was a fake horror killer.
Oh, yeah.
That's who you were?
No. Well, yes, I was a fake horror killer. I was up there for 5 minutes shooting this footage that's supposed to be of a horror film. It was like I was the B-reel guy.
So it was like a movie within a movie?
It was a cameo part. My section wouldn't last more than 10 seconds probably in the final cut of that film.
Okay. Knights of the Dinner Table, which is a TV movie where you're Weird Pete Ashton.
That would have been the best thing ever. And that's a whole other complete podcast about Ken Whitman's chicanery. And
Josh was in that too.
Yeah. I actually got paid for the work that I did, but he didn't just sell us, money. We weren't just paid in money. We were paid in these dreams that he was setting up. And the other people involved, like the creator of Knights of the Dinner Table, agreed that this could have happened. And we could have had a fan base. We could have elevated our careers just a little bit if Ken Whitman hadn't done what he did and pretty much fucked everybody out of money.
Wow.
And then ran off.
I remember when that was happening.
Yeah.
And I taught his daughter as well.
Oh yeah, Alexandra's a great kid, and I hate that some people are going to judge the whole family based on the actions of Ken.
If they meet Sherry or Alexandra, they will not.
They shouldn't. They absolutely shouldn't. They're great people.
Fantastic.
Ken just, what a fucking shyster. He's still down there in Atlanta screwing people out of their money.
Wow.
Yeah.
You did. We talked about the zombie movie, Mortified, where you were Detective Morris.
Yeah, that was under Tom Whitus. I've always said I've only been in like 2 or 3 excellent films, and everything Tom Whitus ever directed me in are good. They're really good.
Do you have copies of any of these?
I have none. I tried.
Is there a way to find any of these online?
I never looked. I'm not watching. If I was in a movie, I don't need to take the time.
Because I would love to do a Reaper M. Jones movie fest and just watch all of these.
Please don't. Whatever you do, don't watch all of them. I am in one called Wingman. I don't think that made IMDb.
Well, let's see. You're Red River. You're the feed store owner.
Yeah, I wasn't in that movie.
Okay,
that's another correction that I tried. I wrote them so many times, and I said I'm not in this movie. There was a communications accident the day of shooting. I'm not in that movie at all.
Yeah.
What about Sam Steele and the Crystal Chalice?
I wasn't.
Were you security guard number 2?
That one actually had a budget. The way Tom Whitus would work is there would be a family consortium out of Missouri that would produce his films, give him money to do family or Christian films. And then there were movies that he wanted to make artistically with the people in the community. So Mortified and one called Almost Nothing Good Happens, which is outstanding. They're different from Sam Steele. Sam Steele actually played on like DirecTV. It made it onto, so you can see me in a few seconds of Sam Steele and the Crystal Chalice on if you were to catch these particular channels.
Okay.
And I'm only in it for a minute, but I'm funny. I make a cameo and it's funny.
How about Santa Claus versus the Zombies, where you're General Dornan?
All right, I've not seen this movie. I can only go off of what I've heard. First of all, I had a good time making the movie. I enjoyed playing General Dornan. From people I've heard that watched the movie, they've said, outside of you, there's nothing to watch. It's the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. I don't know that that's true. And I'm not going to say who did it. I just know the director is a very good guy. He's a nice guy. I like George. I can't remember George. It was George that directed it.
Okay.
Good guy. I've heard it's one of the worst movies ever made, though.
Okay. The Monkey and the Quiet Corpse?
That was one.
You were the voice?
I narrated that one. I actually wrote the short story that was based on, which was this crazy stream of consciousness about a heroin addict who, while he's going through withdrawals, there's a little clapper monkey toy that's there just kind of driving him nuts. But there's also within the story how he lives the life of, again, drawing off of myself, this rich kid, this well-to-do kid who had everything except his grandfather would just verbally abuse him constantly and destroy his self-worth. And so the guy eventually murders the monkey, and when he murders the monkey, there's blood splattering everywhere and stuff like that. It's very surreal. And then I believe at the end of the short story, if not the film, I have him burying his grandfather, which the clapper monkey was a metaphor for the grandfather always clanging and in which he saw as taunting, and so it's a really twisted little movie.
Wow. How about Hell House, where you played Billy?
Again, not gonna ever see it. I don't think the footage is around, but that was fun too.
Movie Mark DVD Indie Shorts Project Volume 1. Earl Jenkins.
Yeah. Back in 2004 or 5.
It's 2004 is what the
say
date they've got
2004,
there.
then it may have been 2003 when we filmed it. You guys know Rick, my
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Rick
film
Marshall.
guy.
Very talented.
Oh yeah. Back then, we said Halloween was coming up. Rick writes me on a Thursday. He said, "What do you think about doing a short film for Halloween?" We were getting together every few weekends doing funny little sketches and stuff without scripts or anything. And he said, "What do you think of doing this? We'll do what we always do. We'll come up with an idea on Friday, shoot it Saturday. I'll edit it Sunday, and by Monday we'll release it to the public." And I said, "Yeah, why not? Why not?" And we got together and we developed a story idea. Saturday we scrapped most of it except for the essential. It's about a guy selling his soul to keep the farm that that is running his family for many years, and so we ended up releasing that online on Halloween to the people who had watched some of our funny sketches, and they went, "Well, this is not what we have seen. This is like an actual film." It was a good, solid short film from our group at the time, and after about a year of that, I went around to these horror conventions where I showed. I'd get a viewing room for 15 minutes. And so there were a lot of horror celebrities that was saying good stuff about it. Like Sid Haig had watched it, and Ken Frey had watched it. Leslie Easterbrook sat there and watched it with us. And so among the horror crowd, that film was picking up some steam. And so the year after, this guy who was aware of my work said he was putting together a compilation disc of short films and asked if I wanted to put Sold in there. Sold is the name of it.
Okay.
And I said, yeah, sure, we did. And so we signed all the paperwork. We didn't get any money off of it, but I got a box full of, I still have a box full of Movie Mark, compilation DVDs in there. But yeah, that's what that one was all about.
So that one you actually do have then.
Wow.
That one's available on YouTube, it should be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Reconciled, where you played Franklin McDowell.
Jesus Christ. Literally, this was a Christian horror film.
Okay.
It was by Tim Ritter, who revolutionized the direct-to-video stuff with his movie Truth or Dare in 1986. He was a 19-year-old kid from Tampa who had gotten, maxed out his credit cards, had his dentist put in money for it, and he made this awful, awful horror film. But it was so balls-to-the-wall, creative, and crazy that people ended up getting a cult following for it. So many years later, this is before I had done really any kind of film, Rick asked me, he said, my friends up in Lexington, they know this guy named Tim Ritter. And Rick had no idea who Tim Ritter was. And I was like, what? Tim Ritter? He's famous. Which he wasn't. I know how things work now. But we go up there to be, I was an extra in a movie called Twisted Illusions 2. Not an extra. I had lines. I had these tiny lines that were...
That was actually the next one on my list.
Yeah, that one came first. And then while we were on the set, Tim sort of took a liking to me, the energy that I had on set.
Yeah.
And he asked me directly, he said, "Do you want to star in this movie called Reconciled?" And I was like, well, fuck yeah, I want to star in it. And so it's about my guy who's going to kill his ex-wife. He's an alcoholic, he's a cheating accountant, he's the worst of people. And then on the way, he keeps being beset by this mysterious hitchhiker guy that tries to help him not murder his wife and stuff. And then,
cool.
and then at the end, he finds Jesus and all that, and it's a nice uplifting film.
Okay, cool.
It's not necessarily something I believed in, but it was something that I thought, well, that's a nice message. We'll put that in there.
I'm going to have to stop your explaining your movies because we're running short on time. But so I'm
Yeah,
just
we've
going to
actually
finish
gone
reading.
over.
So I'm going to read a few other things, and then we're going to have to end this thing, or my computer won't mix this
We
down.
have only now scratched the surface, haven't we?
I know.
Yeah.
Okay. The Hot Plate, the Seiko Theory was a TV series, apparently.
Filmed in college.
Okay.
It was a college project.
Okay, and then you wrote. There's some writing credits that you have for Mountain Mafia and The Monkey and the Quiet Corpse.
Yeah, I wrote all the Monkey and the
There's
Quiet Corpse.
casting director for Deadly Dares, Truth or Dare Part 4.
Yeah, I put a
and
lot of that cast
Reconciled.
together. Yeah, both of those I cast.
And you produced Deadly Dares, Truth or Dare Part 4, and Reconciled.
roughly, yeah.
Okay. Some trivia. You co-owned Dark Winter Studios from 2002 until 2008.
Yeah, that was still Rick and I. It was me, Rick, and Josh, and
Okay.
It was just the precursor to Good People films.
Now you gave you wanted Caleb to carry his own middle name, but you changed the spelling of Allen to the homage of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, mine is A-L-E or A-L-A-N, and his is A-L-L-A-N.
You were managing editor of Fish Taco magazine
For a while, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You well, we know you've managed Nightmare Forest haunted attractions. You portrayed Uncle Lucius in direct-to-video horror shows just for Stinkorama, starring Uncle Roy Hoggins.
First time I ever showed my ass. Yep.
You were a staff writer
believe that
for
for a second.
Hackers Source magazine.
I was a staff writer for Hacker Source for a while.
And your half-brother of Scream Queen Tiffany Shepis.
Totally untrue. I asked her if I could do that. She and I were good friends. And I was like, I'm trying to get movie work. And I'm like, can I tell people you're my half-brother? And she's like, I don't give a fuck. And so that's how Tiffany was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Personal quotes. Acting is bearing your soul for the whole world to see in moments that no one should be watching.
I agree with that.
We are civilized beasts.
I tried to get them to take that off, too.
The silence between two people can illustrate so much more than words. Whether two people are comfortable with each other, angry with each other, smitten with each other, it's the space in between words that establishes that.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's stupid. They won't take that off.
Well, I was going to ask you when you met George Romero, but we ran out of time. I'm just going to go over a short list of plays that I know you've done, and I'm sure there's a whole that aren't on this list. You've done To Whom It May Concern, Cheaper by the Dozen, Dracula, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, Hamlet 2, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The Laramie Project, Lend Me a Tenor, Macbeth, Fiddler on the Roof, 39 Steps, To Kill a Mockingbird, Oliver, Hairspray, Legally Blonde, 1984, Company, Elephant Man, Spamalot, Games Afoot, Bye Bye Birdie, Suicified Christmas, Moonlight and Magnolias, Jesus Christ Superstar, Rocky Horror Picture Show, and Annie.
And
Yeah,
lot
that's
more.
a partial list.
And that's just a partial list.
That right there is missing about 40 other credits.
I know.
Yeah.
You've also directed, to my knowledge, you co-directed Heroicus, the workshop.
Yep.
You've directed Night of the Living Dead. You've directed A Christmas Story, as well as many short films.
Yes.
All
that
right.
is correct.
We are out of time, so I'm turning it back over to Jared.
Wow.
I mean,
well, thank you for choosing me. That I'm shocked. I feel like I don't deserve it.
There you go. It's a
That's
Jeff-isode
really
and a Ron-isode in one.
Yeah. I'm just blown away by
You
this.
know so much more about Ron Blair than you ever thought you would know.
Than you
or
ever
wanted
needed
know.
to. But at least I'm a
Thank
human
you.
now.
It's true.
At
You're
least I'm a
welcome.
human being.
Understand
Thank you,
it. I
Jeff.
understand a little better.
It has humanized me a little bit.
And so until next time, we get an actual Ron-isode.
Yeah.
We would love to hear back from you, your thoughts on Ron Blair, things about him, performances you've
I
seen,
would love to
movies
hear
you
stuff
want to
like
see
that.
you've seen of his things, and if there were any movies that you would like to play a character in, or that you think
Yeah.
one of us should play a character, we'd love to hear that. So until next time, stay wild.
Stay wild.
By the edge.
Speak